Hello again everyone, welcome back. I'm KingBlackToof, and I thought KingBlackToof was dead. Well, I'm going to preempt this question because it'll happen a lot before we get into the video. I have quit Fall Guys on YouTube. Okay, YouTube Fall Guys is dead. The views were too low and the passion was gone for Fall Guys on YouTube. I still play it on Twitch pretty much every day, so you can watch there if you want your Fall Guys fill. But I've done strategy guides, I've done compilations, 6-hour hexagon, challenges, you know, memes. I've also done bingo. So I feel like I've done everything. So the passion's gone, the views were gone, and I had no free time. If I did my work, full-time work, and YouTube and Twitch, I had no free time. So I had to drop the YouTube. When a new game comes out that I'm super excited for, I'll probably start the YouTube up again. But until then, this is a one-off video that I hope you will enjoy. So this video is about Basketfall and PowerTrip and why I think they're bad levels. I want to dissect what's wrong with the levels and Mediatonic's failure to make the levels fun. And I think there's a nice identifiable reason why these levels are bad. And then I want to go over to how I would have made the levels to focus in on the fun aspect. So let's go through the pros and cons of Basketfall first, and then we'll go into PowerTrip. So the thing that I like about Basketfall is scoring goals. Grabbing a ball, running into the goal and slam dunking it in, or doing a really long shot while, you know, the goals are rotating is a really cool concept, and I like that. I find that fun. Unfortunately, you very rarely get an uninterrupted attempt at scoring goals. You normally grabbed or knocked or chasing balls, you know. So unfortunately, it's not as simple as just trying to score goals, and that's fun. But that's the fun part of Basketfall. That's what I would zone in on later. Unfortunately, Mediatonic didn't zone in on that fun part. They zoned in on the other parts, which is it focuses around an object that you have to get from the opposing team, most likely, or they have to get from you. So when you're holding an object, you run slower in Fall Guys, so people can catch up to you and grab you, which is the crux of the issue. There's no real way to prevent from being grabbed in these game modes. So first of all, the negative is getting grabbed while holding a ball is annoying. Like I said, there's no real way to stop it. Okay, you will always get grabbed if someone wants to grab you in Basketfall. So that's super annoying. And not only that, but getting grabbed to prevent you picking up a ball. So even when you don't have a ball, opponents will grab you to prevent you getting to a ball, either to let their teammate get it or to just slow you down while they want to try and get it, which doesn't really work, but they'll grab you anyway. So you're getting grabbed when you have a ball, and you're getting grabbed when you don't have a ball, okay? And then on the reverse side, you're grabbing other players in order to try and get their ball. But when the ball pops, it lands in front of them most likely, so they have advantage and you have a disadvantage. So it's really quite frustrating to try and get a ball off somebody. It can take a long time to try and get a ball off someone. And then the next con is that the drop and re-pick up strategy is so good, it becomes annoying. So it's a very powerful strategy. I recommend everyone use it because it's the only strategy available. Now we can no longer jump to prevent grabs. We only have one option because you are going to get grabbed. There's no strategy around not getting grabbed, but this drop and re-pick up strategy allows you to keep hold of the object. Basically, when you get grabbed, you drop the ball, the grab gets pinged, you don't lose anything because you didn't have anything in your hand, and then you pick up the ball afterwards. It's a really powerful strategy. Anyone who's trying to get the ball off you is at a major disadvantage here unless you're 2v1'd. And it's just a really, really good strategy. So overall, Basketfall is made about around these balls and around grabbing them from your opponents, whether on defense or whether, you know, you just want to get the ball off them, like especially if a golden ball drops. So there's a lot of negatives on Basketfall. Moving on to PowerTrip. The things that I like about PowerTrip are running over the tiles. I like running over 2 tiles at a time. It makes me feel really smart and really cool. And also cutting off other players from certain areas. So if you're at the top level, if you run over a light bridge and someone's trying to run after you to grab the battery, you can press the button and they fall down and you don't. And that's really fun. I like the fact they did multi-layers on this PowerTrip. I really do like that. But they're the two aspects of fun. But again, Mediatonic didn't focus on the fun. Not only, like, running over the tiles is the fun part, but not everyone gets to play that. Loads of people don't get to play because they don't have a battery. There's not enough batteries for everybody. So the annoying parts are very similar to Basketfall. Getting grabbed while holding a battery is very annoying. Like I said, there's not enough batteries for everyone, just like there's not enough balls for everyone in Basketfall. Getting grabbed to prevent a pickup of a battery, same thing. You don't even have a battery and you're getting grabbed, which is super annoying. Now, the drop and re-pickup strategy is just as good in PowerTrip as it is in Basketfall. And in fact, I think it's better, because one of the benefits of the drop and re-pickup strategy in Basketfall is that if they get bored, they might leave you alone and just pick up a newly spawned ball, you know? I think that is the best strategy. Not even to bother grabbing people in Basketfall, just go and pick up a new ball or wait around. Whereas in PowerTrip, there are no new spawns of batteries. So this guy is going to be on you for pretty much the entire game. And again, this is not a strategy to prevent from being grabbed. It just delays, you know, them getting the object. So you're going to drop the battery, pick it back up, drop the battery, pick it back up for pretty much the entire game. I've had an entire game where someone just wouldn't leave me alone, and that's not very fun. And finally, grabbing other players to get a battery, same thing. They can do the drop re-pick up strategy. It's so effective, and I'm at such a disadvantage that I'm just going to spend the entire time trying to get it. If they know that strategy, I'm going to spend the entire game trying to get that battery, and it's not very fun at all. So there is a little mind game, a bit of rock, paper, scissors, where I grab them, they drop the battery and pick it back up. So I anticipate that. I grab them, let go, and try and snipe the battery, so when they drop it, I snipe it. But if they anticipate me doing that, they won't drop the battery. So I'll grab them, anticipate they're going to drop it, let go, and go and snipe it, but they ended up not dropping it. So a nice rock, paper, scissors, but it doesn't normally work out that well, because objects have a little bit of invincibility or something, where you drop it and you can't pick it back up immediately afterwards, and it's super annoying. So again, both these game modes have very similar problems, and I think this is Mediatonic's main failure, which is they were both designed around objects that you have to take or keep from the opponent's team. You have to grab to get the objects, or get grabbed to get the objects taken off you. And I think that is the core issue they need to avoid in future seasons. Don't design any more team games that revolve around objects that need to be grabbed from opponents' teams. It is not fun, and you need to focus on the fun aspects. Now, I'm going to show you how I would design both these levels, keeping the core concepts intact, but focusing on the green fun aspects that we've talked about here. Unfortunately, these fixes are ground reworks. I don't think any amount of variations, you know, pendulums, springboards, anti-gravity added into these levels is going to fix the core concept that these levels are badly designed around objects that need to be grabbed, unfortunately. So let's start with how I would fix PowerTrip. I would have gone for hexagon tiles, but this was before Season 4. I like the aesthetic they chose. You can use that aesthetic if you want, but I would have gone for hexagon tiles, and you would have Team 1 on one side and Team 2 on the other side, red and blue. Now, when you run over hexagon tiles, you paint them your color. So far, so good. Now, what's really important is that after you run over the hexagon tiles, they disappear normally like normal hexagon tiles, right? This means you can't do the stupid strategy that you see in PowerTrip, where you run over a batch of tiles, and then the opposing team runs over just behind you, and you end up just running around in circle, cancelling each other out, and no one's actually really playing. You can't do that here. You can't just follow over someone else's tiles and just repaint them because they disappear, okay? And there's a strategy about why they disappear that we'll talk about in a moment. So what's really important is that after about 10 seconds, you know, give or take, you know, depending on balancing, is that the tiles will reappear and that can be repainted by the opposing team, okay? So it's really important that the tiles disappear, so you can't just like cancel out other people's play, but there is a large strategy, but they need to reappear as well. So that is the core concept of my new PowerTrip, okay? Hexagon tiles that are painted, they disappear and they come back. Now, that eliminates the need for the battery, so you're not grabbing each other for batteries, and it also eliminates the fact that you move slower because you're running at full speed because you're not holding on to something. So I'm very aware at the moment that this game mode is a bit jinxy. What that means is that everyone's just going to be running around, colouring tiles, and it's a 50-50 coin flip on who's going to win, okay? So we need to add a layer of strategy, and the layer of strategy comes in the form of the slime below, or maybe like the sky below, depending on what you want. But effectively, if someone falls into the slime, they respawn back at the starting position. And from the starting position, it takes like 5 to 10 seconds to get back onto the painted tiles. Okay? What this means is if you knock someone into the slime, their team has less players on the painting tiles, which means the opponent's team will start to colour more tiles and they'll get a lead on you. There's your strategy. That's great strategy, which means if you're behind, you have to actively be offensive, cut people off from the opposing team, or grab them to knock them in to the slime, which means it will eliminate players from the game for 5 to 10 seconds, and your team can now start to paint more tiles. Okay, bam, done. Now, I'm aware that I'm advocating grabbing here, whereas in PowerTrip I'm not advocating grabbing, but that's because PowerTrip's primary game mechanic really is grabbing the battery off of the players. It's necessary if you don't have a battery. On this, grabbing is optional, and we've all played Hexagon. Grabbing other players is difficult to do, especially if you want to survive yourself. So it's not necessary in this game to grab people. It's a nice added element of risk, which I think is good. So that's the core mechanic of the level. Obviously, things I love about PowerTrip is the multi-layered that it's got. So maybe you can have strategic areas like this. So a couple of tiles which are in an area that you can easily cut off. Because the hexagon tiles disappear like normal hexagon, you can actually cut these tiles off by walking back and forth. But then you'll have less people on the main area if you want to dedicate one person to sitting in that area, camping that zone. You could also have obstacles, things like hammers, walls, thick bonkers, pendulums, things that would make that particular area, those tiles, harder to get and therefore harder to recolor if you're the opposing team. So they might be a bit safer as well. So you can have a lot of different aspects of variation to the level, but the core concept is just, I think, an overall improvement on PowerTrip because it eliminates all its negatives. You don't have to grab people, you don't run slow, you don't have to get a battery, everyone gets to play. You know, there's different variations you can do, which is pretty interesting. So honestly, I think this is a really good solution, but unfortunately, again, it's a core rework of PowerTrip. Moving on to Basketfall, what I would do, the most fun part about Basketfall is scoring hoops. So that's what I would do. I would have a basketball pitch. I would put a line down the middle, a sort of wall down the middle that you cannot pass. So both teams are separated. Okay, red team on one side, blue team on the other. The balls will spawn in the middle of the pitch. There's enough balls for everybody, which is really important. And you would have bronze goals very close around the outside, symmetrically. So the bronze would only award 1 point, but it does mean that if you're not very good at throwing, you can grab a ball and you can jump into the goal and get it. What's most important is that you should be able to jump into these holes so that beginners can still feel like they're earning points. Then you've got a bit further out, silvers. You won't be able to jump into these. You'll have to jump and throw balls into these silver ones, but you get 2 points. So this is for the intermediate players. So one of the problems with this particular game mode is that the red team and the blue team at the minute are not going to be interacting whatsoever. And I think that is a negative. So the way we can do this is by making them interact indirectly. Okay, we don't want them stealing balls or grabbing people. That's just super annoying. So we'll have a golden goal at the top and bottom symmetrically, but they move asymmetrically. So if one drifts left, one drifts right, and you've got to score goals into that, and it's hard to throw. We want to make it a bit harder than the silver though, so we'll have like maybe an anti-gravity zone and a button. So you press the button and you get the anti-gravity zone and they get the low gravity zone. So they have to press the button, then you have to press the button and they have to press the button. So it means that you're fighting over the gravity zone, which is necessary to get the golden hoop. Okay. Now the thing is, you can't just say I don't want to go for the gold, because then the opponent's team would press the button, get the anti-gravity and get loads of the gold. So it's like you're indirectly fighting each other, and you have to constantly be aware that you have to press the button so they don't get the gold. Do you know what I mean? You have to be fighting indirectly to get the gold, or at least to prevent them getting the gold, which are worth 3 points, I would say, or maybe 5, depending on how hard it is. There's other ideas. You don't have to use this particular anti-gravity button thing. The buttons do bounce you up, so maybe you can just press the button and then bounce up and throw, and maybe that's hard enough. But this is how I would have done Basketfall. It means that you don't get grabbing, you don't get grabbed You don't have to grab other balls. There's enough balls for everybody. If you're got a really beginner player and he's not very good at all, maybe he doesn't even try and score goals. Maybe he just sticks around the middle where all the balls are and just passes balls out all the time, like you do on Egg Scramble, you know, where you just start throwing balls a little bit and passing them to your teammates all the time. Maybe he can just do that, you know, adds a little element there. It means that everyone gets to play with the balls and everyone gets to try and make some shots. So it zooms in on the fun aspect, which is making nice long shots, but it doesn't hinder people that can't do throws. They can go and get the brown points or be passers. They can just pass the balls to people so they don't have to keep running back and forth. So that's how I would fix Basketfall and PowerTrip. And I hope Mediatonic take note and don't create any more team games that revolve around objects and grabbing objects off other players, because it's not fun, and I think probably ruined quite a bit of Season 4 for me. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you again. Never again.